I spoke about Biafra being ended 53 years ago. It's all over the place in this place. I condemn all agitators, but in condemning them, you have to look at what brought about these agitations all over the place. We have Yoruba Nation movement. We have all sorts. When you have created this level of massive poverty, where 63% of your population is poor, you're going to create all sorts of problems. We have about 40% unemployment. And we have about 60% youth unemployment. Young people in their productive age doing nothing. If you have 15% unemployment in Britain today, you're going to have massive, remember, agitation. Nobody will be able to leave his house. So what you're seeing is a cumulative effect of leadership failure over the years, which will be solved by good governance. When people start seeing justice, fairness, and inclusive government and doing the right thing, all those things will start reversing itself. I will talk and discuss with all agitators. There's nothing wrong in that.
Your plans for youth, young people? If you would like to answer the questions, Mr. Tunumbu.
I would love to do so.
Yeah.
Youths are part of today, but they are the greatest asset for tomorrow.
Continue.
We need to prepare them from now, from our all-inclusive government. The youth has been part of that. I want the governor of Lagos State to stand up.
What are you trying to say?
Yes. You don't know now? It's a youth. It's driving the fifth largest economy in Africa today.
Oh my God.
And the transformative government of our legacy.
Do I know?
My own personal legacy. Yes, the education system is to change. We overhaul it. Tinker with some areas that with the philosophy that no one will be left behind. There be student loan for all the students. We are going to reform the Almajiri system.
Continue.
We are equally going to build additional schools and recruit more teachers and train them well. And they teach them the opportunity to govern. Give them that opportunity. Broadband, technology hubs, and so on and so forth. Will be established that youth can even develop technology languages on their own and make a better 21st century approach to governance in Nigeria.
You asked about PPP in education. I said you're in Cambridge. Is Cambridge run by British government? Now, I just want to know, because I don't know. When we're talking about PPP in education, we're talking about tertiary education. We're not talking about basic education. We will ensure that basic education is free, and we will drive it aggressive, because we have 20 million out of school children in the north, which I've said we will deal with decisively, because those children mostly have learned Quran, which means they're intelligent. We'll meet them at the point of learning Quran and teach them skill. For the tertiary education, we must find a way to fund it in a collaborative way, public partnership, in order to be able to ensure that 4 years will be 4 years, not what is happening today. That's what we mean by that. And it will be, you'll see, it's a win-win situation. That's it. No, not the basic. It won't be the basic.
Have you got plans, that will generate training, appointments,
Thank you.
and also job security?
Okay, thank you so much. So what are your plans for youth, young people? If you would like to answer the questions, Mr. Tunumbu. Please, if we can keep quiet and one conversation here. Thank you. Go ahead.
Let me once demonstrate here. One of those philosophies and one of the doctrine that I believe firmly in is teamship.
Oh my God!
Unbreakable team. To demonstrate that, I will choose the first question, assign it to Dele Alake.
Problem that I see here is this. We have a population, or part of the economy, shall we say, those who supply spare parts, the engineers, those who work within that sector, whether it's those that are selling generators, and we know that that issue is perhaps the biggest issue when it comes to our power generation. So my question here is this. How do you plan, number one, and I'm going to take a risk here, to deal with the big boys, and how do you also plan to address that economy that will then no longer exist because you have generated power? Because I'm sure that they too will rise up against it. Thank you so much.
Let me start with my sister there. He talked about the big, what you're saying is about the big boys who are selling generators. Let me assure you what we've been campaigning on. Our campaign, you have heard them say we don't have structures. That is the structure we're trying to destroy. Structure of criminality. That is what I mentioned. That Nigeria is being held captive. That structure is structure that have impoverished Nigeria. We will dismantle it. It will not be there. I assure you of that. We're going to turn around the power sector. Nigeria generates about, today, 56,000 megawatts of electricity for 200 million people. And South Africa, the second biggest in terms of economy in the continent,
5 to 6,000.
5 to 6,000, that's 5 to 6,000, sorry. And South Africa, the second biggest economy, 60 million people, generates about 40 to 50,000. And South Africa, in the past 3 months, have declared emergency in power and said anybody can generate up to 100 megawatts without license. So somebody who is 60 million, generating about over 40,000, declared emergency. What do you think somebody with 2 million people generating 5 to 6,000 will do? War. I'm going to declare war on power, and I'll solve it. Anybody who stands on the way, so be it.
You don't know now.
And the second question, assigned to Nasiru El-Rufai.
Wait on
Please go ahead.
Security, Nasiru El-Rufai.
Yes, thank you very much for that.
The Bola Tinubu administration will address these challenges, or whatever remains of it, after the efforts of this administration in at least 3 ways. First, policing. Nigeria has about 300,000 policemen for a population of over 200 million. We need at least twice that number. That will be achieved. That will be achieved by amending the Constitution so that policing can be at federal, state, and even at community level. with increased security footprint, there will be less and less of criminal activity. The second step is to look at our armed forces and security architecture. Nigerian armed forces are not more than 200,000 in size, the Army, Navy, the Air Force. While some countries are even looking at a space military, we are struggling with just less than 200,000 members of the armed forces for a country with a population of 200 million plus. The numbers, the equipment, the skills, and the training of the armed forces will be scaled up, will be increased rapidly to meet the asymmetric nature of the security challenges that we face. Because today, our armed forces are not fighting with other countries, they are fighting with non-state actors, and the doctrine, the training, the numbers must change. And the Bola Tinubu administration already has a blueprint which is embedded in our action plan to address this. We'll scale up the numbers of the armed forces, we'll ramp up not only the numbers, but the training and equipment. In Nigeria, in 1967, the total size of the Nigerian army was only 10,000. Because of the civil war, within a year, we ramped it up to 250,000. So it can be done. And what we are facing in Nigeria today, banditry, terrorism, separatism, and oil theft, requires a new approach towards security, enhancing the numbers, providing enhanced technology, and collaborating with the rest of the world to ensure that our country is not only internally safe, but not a threat to our neighbors. Thirdly, the issue of proliferation of small arms. Following the collapse of Libya due to no fault of ours, will have to be addressed through collaboration with countries like Mali, Niger, Sudan, and Chad, and so on and so forth. This we have already started, but this will be deepened and broadened under the leadership of a new security team under the Bola Ahmed Tinubu administration by the special grace of God. Thank you.
Thank you. Then there was a joint question from Ms. Etty and Zindi Anthony Levy, and they're asking, insecurity is a major problem. What are your plans in tackling this? What are your plans in terms of security sector reform in Nigeria?
Somebody talked about tackling insecurity. I've said it extensively. It is our first commitment to first secure Nigeria. Securing Nigeria is not impossible. I secured Anambra State, that's gone. And it won't be different. I've said we will deal and talk with those we will win, we will talk with those who are winnable. It will be carrot and stick. And those who don't, we will deal with them. We're not going to shy away. Nigeria must be secured. It's a country. Every country must be secured. But we are not going to walk away from the problem. We'll deal with it. We have our armies and military used to secure Africa. So this is time to go back and resonate that spirit in which they used to secure Africa to secure Nigeria. And we will deal with it.
Yes, madam, you. Yes, but sharp, please. There's a microphone just here. It's next to you. Just there, please. Aha.
Okay, Your Excellency, good afternoon. So my question here is this. You talked about restructuring. As you're aware, Nigeria can barely service its external debt. Nigeria can barely service its external debt. Our current external debt, we cannot service it, or we're finding it difficult to service it. Now, when you become president, how do you intend to restructure our external debt without actually downgrading our rating in the market? Thank you.
Thank you. And your name, just so we have it?
My name is Ifeyinwa Umunakwe Okeke.
Okay, thank you.
Then, issue of barely servicing our debts. I've said it before, we're not the only country that have gone through this. Once we move from consumption to production, what we're going to do first is that What you see today, we inability to service our debts, is because of fiscal rascality. You're paying unsustainable subsidy, which will be stopped from day one, because it's a criminal thing. You're no longer generating money because they're stealing with oil. And the only people who can steal oil are people in government, because ordinary people cannot steal oil. You can't put it in your pocket. It's something that you come with sheep. So all those, and you stop corruption, the waste, everything. And you go to seek to ensure that the revenues of government are properly collected. These are things, when you have tightened all the leakages and wastes, you'll be able to increase your position and you negotiate and be able to service them. Look at it, just to give you an example. Nigeria is today the only OPEC nation, apart from Venezuela, because of sanction, that is not meeting up its quota. Because over the years of oil theft, the multinationals and everything have not been investing, coupled with the theft and everything. You're not realizing what you're supposed to. Every other nation that is in the same condition was able to bring down their rates and inflation within this period of Ukraine war. I'm not saying it's good to wait for war to be able to get more revenue, but people are taking advantage of it, because it's there. And you can't run away from it. But we couldn't take that advantage. Our situation got worse because of poor management of our own physical space, which will change with that and I. And finally, like I said, somebody kept telling me that issue that people have been saying that if I become president, that there's issue of being, how do I say, what word do they use? Stingy. Pat knew the question of stingy. How are you going to manage? Because they said you'll be stingy and everything. And let me say it publicly that people don't know what it is all about. At the heart of poverty is capital formation. And you can't go about capital formation without savings. Even in the most developed world, which is why I said that Japan holds highest amount of US treasury. If you listen or you go and read about what Professor Ragnar Nask done in the 50s, it showed it clearly. Capital formation is the heart of poverty. Without capital formation, you have low productivity, low income, and you produce poverty all over the place. What I was doing as governor, I was the best governor in Millennium Development Goals by the UNDP. You can go and check that. It's there. I won a prize for the best road network. I won the Gay Prize back-to-back on health. You can go and see what I did in health. Build scratch, teaching hospitals and everything. Improved #1 in education. And above all, I was able to save because I believe in future generation. If you look at that savings, I said future generation funding because we want to have proper capital formation to drive tomorrow. If I have opportunity in Nigeria, no matter what we do, we'll do the same thing. We must save for tomorrow. Because that's how you form capital to turn around tomorrow. So as the end, I appeal to all of you. There's nothing more powerful than an idea whose time have come. Victor Hugo. The time today is to have competent leadership with character, commitment and compassion. And that's what Nigeria is yearning for. That's what Dati and I are offering you. Let's have opportunity to build a better Nigeria. Thank you.